up destroying my marriage. He comes back from his first day of work and instead of looking happy, he looks awful. I could see something was wrong the moment I saw him. A very difficult conversation followed. In an almost comically bad turn of events, my husband's ex-girlfriend Jessica works at the same place where he has just joined. I knew about Jessica. Nathan and her dated for 3 years and he proposed to her, but she said no and dumped him. This was a few years before the two of us met and started dating. Obviously, we didn't spend a lot of time talking about our past lovers, but I knew that it was extremely rough on him and he never mentioned her after that one conversation with me. When I heard that it was Jessica of all people, my stomach dropped. Out of all people, it was her. I didn't know what to do. I mean, sure, it had been years and he didn't have feelings for her anymore, but the idea of them working together was not exactly pleasant to me. He seemed genuinely upset too and we spent a lot of time talking about what we could do. He offered to quit the job but at that point, our savings were running out and I didn't know how long I could go on paying all our bills without making solid lifestyle changes that neither of us would be comfortable making. Also, I told myself that we were all adults here and quitting a job over an ex was childish. We stayed up almost all night talking about what to do and by the end of our conversation I felt much better about the whole thing. It felt silly to think that some ex from years ago could affect our relationship in any way. My husband was extremely loving and kind and put all my doubts at ease. The next day, he went to work and when he came back he said that she was in a completely different department and he hardly even saw her once during the day. He told me that he never intended to speak to her unless it was for some unlikely work reason and that he would tell me immediately if that happened. That put my mind at ease and as more days passed, I stopped thinking about her completely. My husband was as loving as ever and I was proud of the two of us for overcoming something that could have caused serious trouble if not handled well. Looking back, I laugh at how naive I was. I was so blinded by love and trust in my husband, that I didn't once think that something fishy was going on. A couple of months into his new job, he went on a business trip. He told me that if it goes well he may get a promotion so I was very excited for him. I asked him if I could tag along with him and make it a mini getaway for the two of us but he said that he would be working the whole time so there wasn't a point. He also said that the team going for the meeting was all men and none of them were bringing their wives or girlfriends so I wouldn't be very comfortable. I was a little upset but didn't think anything much of it. What he said did make sense. When he came back, I asked him about his meetings and if he thought he would get the promotion but he might have to go on a few more meetings with this particular contractor before the promotion could be possible. Over the next 3 months, he went on trips at least once a month but there was no news of a promotion. Instead of getting suspicious, I was naive enough to actually be concerned about his company making him work so hard without increasing his pay. I also want to make it clear that after the initial discussion, neither of us had spoken about Jessica even once. She didn't cross my mind for the most part, and even if she did, I chose not to mention it. When I told my friends about this during the divorce, they all said that it was incredibly naive of me to blindly trust my husband so much. I agree with them now, but back then I would have trusted that man with my life. 5 months into his new job, I realized that I had missed my period. Not thinking much of it, I decided to take a pregnancy test anyway just to put my mind at ease. To my surprise, it was a positive test. I was taken aback. It was definitely not a planned pregnancy, but with Nathan's new job and both of us being in a good place financially, I thought that it could be a good thing. I was nervous to tell him but also very excited. Nathan was on another business trip when I took the test, but he was coming back the same day so I decided to wait till he got back. I still remember how nervous I was and how I started daydreaming about our new life. It was pretty late by the time he got home and I remember staying up to have dinner together. He came in looking upset so I asked him what happened and he told me it was just work stuff and that he didn't want to talk about it. I said that I might have something that could cheer him up and asked him to wait while I got the test kit. I told him to close his eyes, held it up, and asked him to open his eyes. He just stared at me for a few seconds and asked me if that was what he thought it was. I thought he was just in shock and said that yes and we're about to be parents excitedly. I waited for him to snap out of it and be happy but after a few moments of anticipation, he still had that look on his face. I got uncomfortable and asked him if he was okay and wasn't he happy about this. His whole expression changed and he said that he was just taken aback by the surprise. I told him that I was surprised too but this could be a very good thing for us and we can deal with it together. He still looked uncomfortable and said that he just needed some time to think. I was extremely upset at this reaction. I expected him to be happy or at least supportive. I told him that I was disappointed in him and he basically brushed me off saying that I couldn't expect him to be overjoyed at such a monumental change in his life happening without his decision. I told him that he signed up for this by getting married to me and if he couldn't be a good husband about it maybe we need to rethink our relationship. He said that maybe we do and left the room without another word. I said that in a moment of anger and hurt. I did not really mean it at the time. But his reaction broke my heart. I cried by myself in the living room and slept on the couch because I didn't want to see him in our bedroom. He didn't come once to check up on me or ask me to come back. Even at that point, I had faith that we would get through this and somehow recover. But that was just the beginning of my troubles. I woke up to him already dressed for work and making breakfast. I didn't speak to him and went into our bedroom. Again, he didn't try to stop me or even say a single word to me. I didn't know what to do. I waited for him to come in after me but after some time I heard the front door close and knew that he had left. I spent most of that day crying to my friends and my mom. I called in sick from work. I literally remember it like it was yesterday. By the time it was time for him to come back from work, I had a whole speech ready about how he broke my heart and needed to be a better husband to me. Little did I know he also had a speech ready and it was nothing I could have imagined. The first thing he said after coming home was we need to talk. That worked for me, I needed to talk as well. I thought I needed that talk way more than he did really. Turns out he had the surprise of a lifetime for me. We sat down across from each other and with no warning, he asked me whose baby is it. I was so confused I genuinely didn't understand what he meant. So I asked him, and he asked me the same thing again. Whose baby is it? I will never forget. I asked him what he meant and said that obviously it was our baby, what else could even be possible I mean. He told me that we were past that point and I should just admit the truth and get it done with. I was starting to get scared at that point, it started to feel less like a joke. I told him again that it was obviously his baby and I didn't understand why he was even asking me such questions because I had never been anything but loyal to him and he had never acted this way before. He refused to make eye contact with me and said that was when I still cared about our relationship. I'm pretty sure I was already crying by then. I kept telling him that I love him and there was nothing more important to me than our marriage, but he just kept repeating the question. Must have asked me a dozen times. And each time I was as clueless as the first time. He told me that if I couldn't be honest with me there was very little left to do because he was not raising another man's child and living with a lie. I was sobbing and kept telling him I had never even thought of another man since I met him and didn't understand what I did to deserve such allegations. He said that with the way I couldn't wait for him to leave the house and go on business trips, tell him everything he could want to know about my loyalty. I was too confused to even speak. Every single time he left for work I got sad and told myself to be an adult and support him in his career because I remember how hard it was for both of us when he lost his job. Every single time. I stopped asking to go along with him after the first few times because he always said that he was busy constantly and didn't get a minute to himself till late at night. I stopped calling him more than once a day when he was away because he wouldn't pick up and texted me he was with clients. All I did was put him first only to hear him say that I wanted him away to spend time with another man. It felt like a slap on my face. I felt sick to my stomach. Almost thought I was in a bad dream of some sort. I told him all of this and he said that I shouldn't waste time making him look like the villain because he was tired of feeling unwanted and wouldn't let me make a fool of him. He said that ever since he started working and traveling, I have been distant and didn't make him feel wanted. He said he hated coming home because I didn't even look happy to see him and he felt like I was happier when he was not around. I kept telling him he was wrong and this was just a huge misunderstanding and I was just trying to be a supportive wife. He kept saying that I was hiding someone and preferred to spend time with him instead of being in our marriage. I asked him if he had any proof of these things he was saying and he said that he didn't need proof to